Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me. We have an awesome show planned for you today. Danny Cannell will be here shortly after I get us fired up and worked up about Tupac Shedeur Sanders. We'll bring Danny Cannell in to further discuss Tupac. There's some other things in sports that I hope we get to, but maybe we won't get to it because once I start talking about Tupac Shedeur, then I won't want to talk about anything else, but we shall see. But we have a fantastic show, and I want you all to, before I get rolling here, the first thing I need you to do, and you should already know this, if you're listening over Apple, I need you to hit that 5-star rating pronto. Right now, hit that 5-star rating. If you're watching over YouTube or you're listening to us over Apple, or if you want to support us, you need to support the people and the product that's making today's show a possibility, our friends at Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% daily drug-free supplement that fights inflammation. You guys hear me talk about my relationship with Relief Factor, my use of Relief Factor, and how it's helping me as I continue to work out in my gym. You hear me talk about my buddy, Jeffrey Steele, who's 64 years old and bikes every day, 30 miles a day. Relief Factor is making it possible. If you're suffering with those little aches and pains that are compromising your life and making you think, well, I can't do that anymore, I just hurt too much, you need to try Relief Factor. It can perhaps solve some of those problems. They have a 3-week quick start that's just $19.95. Just $19.95 for a 3-week quick start that will answer the question, is Relief Factor right for me? 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start circle back and re-up because they're already experiencing the benefits of less inflammation. $20 and a 70% chance that you could feel better, become more active, have less aches and pains, get back to being the old you. $20? That's not worth it? Come on, guys. This is easy. You need to try Relief Factor. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Thank you, Relief Factor, for making this show possible, and thank you for the relief you provided me. All right, let's get into today's show. We're going to circle back to Shedeur Sanders. I'm watching last night. Many of you were probably, like me, watching the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking about Shedeur Sanders. And I want to walk. The reason I call Shedeur Tupac Shedeur is because he is just like Tupac Shakur. And so I want to take you back to Tupac's last album that he had that was actually, it was taped or recorded while he was alive. It wasn't released until after his death. And it was called Machiavelli. And Machiavelli, the real Machiavelli, was a guy from the 1500s living in Italy, and he was a political philosopher. And many people call him the father of political philosophy and political tactics. And Machiavelli, the real Machiavelli, not Tupac, but the real Machiavelli, believed in deception, in ruling through deception. Rulers should use every lie and every trick in the book to fool the masses. He specialized. The book, he wrote this book called The Prince that was about ruling through deception. And this is what, like, modern political philosophy is based off of Machiavelli's book that advises rulers to rule through deception. And Shedeur Sanders, he's part of a deception that's being played on us. He's no different than Tupac. I want to walk you through, like, the fraudulence of Tupac Shakur, who was some 17-year-old gay kid in New York just going to high school. Let's play the clip. I want to you to understand who Tupac Shakur was. Play the
Get
clip.
some more
This is-
rights.
Well, 18 will bring lots of responsibilities that I don't want, but it'll bring respect that I feel like that's the only way I can get it. You know, I try to be as mature as I can be and demand it wherever I can get it. But 18 is like, you're an adult. You like today when I had to sign the release form, I felt so bad because I couldn't sign it myself. I had to go and get my mother's and all that. But
That's Tupac Shakur. Gay Pop. That's who he was before the system said we need to create a false god, a false icon, a thug life, a thug caricature that we want young people, particularly young black people, to idolize and follow. And so they tatted thug life across his stomach. They helped him write all these hip-hop, thuggish rap songs. And they transformed Tupac Shakur into an icon, into an idol for you to worship. And Tupac got it, understood it, knew that he was part of a marketing deception campaign to deceive you all that he's a Christ-like figure. And they even put him on his last album after his death, Machiavelli. They put him on a cross. Machiavelli. He was like a Hail Mary. That's kind of my football, and he's got a famous song called Hail Mary. Same thing is going on with Shedeur Sanders. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, the number one team in football, the number one team in sports, played last night. But like everything else in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and Jerry Jones, they're all overshadowed by a fifth-round quarterback that plays for one of the worst franchises in sports, who just played his first NFL game or got into his first NFL game this past Sunday. He's overshadowed everything. Shedeur Sanders, even the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys should, generally speaking, drive all the conversation during the fall. But Shedeur Sanders, a fifth-round quarterback who runs around like he's Tupac Shakur with the gold chains and the braided hair and trying to talk ghetto. It's a fake accent. He's no different than Tupac Shakur. He's been dressed up as an idol for you to worship and to mask the fact that they've turned the National Football League into a sport that is so soft, so unrecognizable from the football that was played in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. But they don't want you focused on that. They've turned the National Football League into a soap opera. And Shedeur Sanders is the biggest star in that soap opera. And they use other soap opera stars like Stephen A. Smith to talk about it. Stephen A. Smith knows nothing about football. Everybody knows he knows nothing about football. But it's all part of a deception campaign to mask the fact that the product is horrible, that the product looks corrupt, that the product is actually ruled and run and controlled by the officials, the referees, who all have earpieces in and who all take direction from whoever's magically talking to them in their earpiece. The product is bad. And Shedeur Sanders and the Shedeur war, the Shedeur race war, the conversation about Shedeur and his Kevin Stefanski, are the Browns racist, the same Cleveland Browns that handed Deshaun Watson, a serial massage sexual assaulter, that handed that black kid $200 some odd million guaranteed, fully guaranteed. That organization is racist, and they're out to get Shedeur Sanders. And Stephen A. Smith and everybody over social media is talking about just how unfair Shedeur Sanders is being treated. No one's talking about football. They're talking about whether a fifth-round draft pick who started out as the fourth-string quarterback, ended up the third-string quarterback. They trade Joe Flacco, and so he now becomes the second-string quarterback. He doesn't know the playbook. He doesn't know the game. He's never competed for a starting quarterback's job in his life and doesn't know how to compete. He is now the face of the NFL, and everybody's talking about him, and everybody's talking about what a victim he is. And they've turned the NFL into a bad soap opera, controlled by people's feelings about whether, tune in to see how they mistreat Shedeur Sanders this week. Will the Las Vegas Raiders tackle him in the backfield the same way that he was treated by the Baltimore Ravens? Tune in. Shedeur's on the cross. He didn't get first-team reps. How could he compete? And then you have everybody over social media, including some former NFL player. Well, he didn't get first-team reps. And everybody gets first-team reps, even fifth-round quarterbacks, even though you will have former NFL quarterbacks, longtime backup quarterbacks say, hey, man, we never got reps. And no one will draw the logical conclusion that, hey, this kid doesn't really know football. This kid is far more interested in being a global icon, a global brand, a influencer, a celebrity, far more interested in that than actually competing in the National Football League, competing for a job. He's been coached by his daddy since he was 5 years old and never had to compete. Should we be surprised he doesn't know how to compete? These things are obvious. But all the actors paid to participate in this deception that the NFL and all the puppet masters are playing with us, are playing on us. And social media rigged to enhance the deception. This is a Hail Mary for a dying sport. This is obvious that the product is bad. When Shedeur Sanders overshadows the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, against the Raiders on Monday Night Football, that's the biggest sign yet that there is a problem in the National Football League, that their product is so bad, so soft, it's been so feminized, it's been so distanced from its great past in history, that we're passing off Deion Sanders, spoiled and entitled child, as the face of the National Football League, the most interesting thing in the National Football League? And yes, those of you, well, you're a hypocrite, Whitlock. You're talking about him. You're going to watch him this Sunday. Yes, I am. And yes, I'm going to talk about Shedeur Sanders for as long as they keep this deception up. And I'm going to call out the deception, all the lies, all the women that have been installed in the sports media landscape and platformed and promoted because they don't know anything about football. It's easier to convince them to stay on message and to go along with the deception that Shedeur Sanders has somehow earned all of this attention. It's all a promotion of a racial conflict. And I sit here and I think about like what the NFL, what Pete Rozelle and Al Davis and the people that founded the early success of the National Football League, they wanted, and perhaps this was a deception as well, and likely was a deception as well, but it was based more in reality. It was more palatable for me. But it was based on, hey, we're going to analogize the sports conflict, the competition in football, we're going to analogize it to military conflict. And yes, that is a deception. Yes, it is. But it's nowhere near the deception that's being pulled off now. Because now football is a reflection of a social media conflict that centers on race. And so when you're running a sport and operating the National Football League in a way to analogize military conflict, what does military conflict do to men involved in that conflict? When you're in the same foxhole with a man and your life is dependent on the man that you're shoulder to shoulder with, what disappears? All of your differences. It doesn't matter what color the man next to you is. It matters whether he will live up to his responsibility and do his job and help both of you survive. Military conflict brings men together that are fighting on the same team. It makes all the superficial differences go away. It actually brings people together in prayer because it's you, God, and the man next to you. That's your only chance of survival. And so when the National Football League was mimicking that, it was bringing men together. It was modeling a survival technique that is actually healthy, that helps each man see the humanity and the necessariness of each other. Well, now that they've turned it into a social media reflection of false conflict that divides, that makes everyone go tribal, that turns it all into a racial conflict. You need characters, you need actors like a Shedeur Sanders that you can dangle out there and have sports fans like, yeah, he's black and he carries himself in a way that offends white people. And anything that offends white people is good. And then you put your other actors like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and Cam Newton out there to help sell the racial conflict. Kevin Stefanski, he's a white coach. He must hate Shedeur Sanders. He's treating Shedeur Sanders unfairly. They're using sports to energize and promote racial conflict and to normalize racial conflict. That's why the discussion about Shedeur Sanders is so dishonest, because they're using sports to promote racial conflict when they used to use sports to bring us all together. This is a great deception that's being executed on all of us. Shedeur Sanders overshadowing the entire National Football League, overshadowing the Cowboys and the Raiders playing on Monday Night Football. This is amazing, and it's disturbing. But that's where we are with the National Football League, with end racism painted in the end zone. And it takes all of us painted in the end zone. These little messages painted in the end zone do not compete with the actual message that the NFL promotes on a daily basis. Because trust me, this whole Shedeur thing and this whole entire conversation being promoted by ESPN, being promoted by these social media apps, it would all disappear if the NFL wanted it to disappear. If the NFL did not want racial conflict, Bad Bunny wouldn't be the Super Bowl halftime entertainment. But since they're promoting American division, Bad Bunny is the Super Bowl halftime entertainment. Shedeur Sanders, another Machiavelli-like character. Colin Kaepernick, another Machiavellian-type character. This is all intentional. I just wanted to get that off my chest. we're going to talk some more Shedeur with Danny Cannell. I'll lighten up the conversation a bit with Danny, but I wanted to start there. Why, you're not as interested in the Dallas Cowboys and the Raiders. The product is trash, and they've turned the NFL into a soap opera, and Shedeur Sanders, the Tupac character of the NFL, is the biggest star in football. The NFL has turned itself into a joke. I think that's all I want to say about that. I want to make sure, before we get to Danny Cannell, I want to make sure you guys go to fearlessmission.com. If you liked what you just heard there, if you want more provocative commentary that gives you a different way of looking at the sports world, if you want something from a biblical point of view, you need to be supporting me through Fearless Mission. Go to fearlessmission.com, subscribe today, and save $20 with this promo code Fearless. When we come back, Danny Cannell will join me. The guy ran onto the field.
Words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. We're going to continue the conversation about Shedeur Sanders, but we're going to do it with an actual former NFL quarterback who was an NFL starter at one point, who was an NFL backup. He comes on the show regularly. Danny Cannell, welcome back to the show. Danny, I want to just start. Well, should I start by asking, what do you think's going to happen? I'm not going to ask. I'll get to the controversy. What do you think's going to happen this week? Shedeur gets to play the Raiders, who look like trash, and so he'll get the best opportunity to put his best foot forward and look like a superstar. Will it happen?
I'll tell you what's going to happen is X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is going to break. Like, that's already been glitchy a little bit today. Like, yeah. I think it might just break. This is, and you and I have talked about this. I don't think and clearly the NFL has gotten a little taste of Shedeur mania. But, like, I got a full taste of it in college when he was at Colorado and I was pretty complimentary of Shedeur. I thought he played pretty good. But, the minute you say something bad or you say something bad about Coach Prime and it's just a constructive criticism, even at that, it's just people lose their mind. Like, there is a derangement syndrome around Shedeur where people just can't see things clearly. Clearly, in case you haven't noticed, I have a lot to get off my chest because I still haven't answered the question of what we'll see. But when you have people that know nothing about the game, and that's like just fans, just people that are fans of Shedeur, and that's great. But when they're arguing with not only me, like I only played 7 years, but I was primarily a backup. But when they're arguing with Chase Daniels and Brian Hoyer and Luke McCown and others about how life is like as a backup quarterback in practice, like, it's just crazy. Like, there's a derangement syndrome to inability to see the truth. And I do think there's some people that have thrown gasoline on the fire on the other way. When I see Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco Johnson talking and saying, and Shannon Sharp is saying, well, when I was on Denver with John, I saw the backups get a couple reps. I was on the Broncos with Shannon, and I didn't get any reps. Like, he didn't bring up that scenario. Like, because Jake Plummer was the starter, and I would ask Jake and be like, hey, man, you got time for me a couple today? And he'd be like, no, this is a big week. I need to make sure I get every single rep. People just don't understand. Now, I do think it is unfair just to make a blanket statement and say a backup quarterback never gets any first-string reps. Like, that is not an accurate statement. But it is pretty rare. Even if you do get some reps, it's 2 out of 14 plays, like, max. Like, that's all you're going to get. So that whole narrative and, watching people trying to defend him by saying he is not getting any didn't get any first-string reps, like, welcome to life as a backup. That's why the term mental reps becomes so important, because as a backup, your job is to be ready to go without getting reps. Like, that is specifically what your job is. So as a backup, you have to sit there, and it kind of sucks. Like, it's not fun. You have to sit there, and you'll sit right behind the quarterback, the huddle. You'll kind of listen to the play calls, and you'll watch, and you've got a script so you can see all the plays that are being run. And in my mind, and this is what I think most backup quarterbacks would do, is you kind of call the play in your head, and then as the quarterback's walking up to the line of scrimmage, you're checking and seeing things the same way he is, and you're watching, and you're saying, all right, there's a Mike Sam blitz. I could be hot here. And then the snap, if they come, you're like, he better throw hot. And then he does, and you're like, okay, check. That was a mental rep. If he doesn't, and they don't come, then you start saying, all right, he should hit the crosser. Then he should hit the curl. Then he should hit the flare. Like, you go through those reps in your mind as you're watching practice unfold, but you don't get to get under center. It's just not, it's a luxury that a team like the Broncos with John Elway late in his career, who probably didn't even want all the reps because he may have wanted a couple plays off, would say, sure, Rook, whatever it is, go get a couple reps. Like, good for you. I think that was the case with Joe Flacco, because there's been a lot made. Well, Dylan Gabriel got snaps. Well, yeah, Flacco's a 40-year-old who is known to have played in every system. He doesn't need the reps. So I just wanted to set the record straight on that, because it's been very frustrating to watch some of this unfold. And I do think a large portion of people are really, and I think it works both ways. I think you've got a crowd that really leans into the base, that play to the crowd, that want to appease the Shedeur backers. And then very clearly there are a bunch of people that, want to troll Shedeur and are rooting against him. And like, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Back to your question.
No. You started at the right place. I started at the wrong place. Let's linger here for a minute. Okay. You got us off to a good start. Is Shannon Sharp and Ocho and some of the others, they're throwing out common sense? Is the motivation just purely click driven? And look, I got to serve my audience, and my audience wants to hear how great Shedeur is?
I don't know. I honestly think it's very similar to a derangement syndrome, like the way we talk about TDS. Like, I think it's real, and I think it happens in a lot of different subjects in our society where you just have an inability to see things clearly. And I do think that Shannon and Chad have probably been given really good access to Coach Prime and to Shedeur and to the family. I know that's the case with RG3, because, I've seen RG3 go out and do his podcast there and with his wife sit down with Coach Prime. And that is human nature, to want to root for people and to want them see them do well. And I guarantee you, Coach Prime has told those guys, my son's an NFL franchise quarterback. And they're probably like, okay, yeah, I see that. Let's go with that. And so then there's an inability to see things clearly. I'm sure there's some aspect to the clicks of it, the clout, gaining some sort of street cred with, the fan base that likes Shedeur. It's become race, even though I have no idea why. When people say the Cleveland Browns or Stefanski are racist, like, have we forgotten that they gave Deshaun Watson the first guaranteed contract in NFL history? Like, and that he's still getting paid by the franchise? Like, and then the conspiracy that Kevin Stefanski doesn't want him to win. Like, Kevin Stefanski's job on the line. He needs somebody to go out there and win some games. All of it's just bizarre. So I think it's a combination of all those things. I will say this, and I think you saw this, it's very similar to Tebow. And I think you and I have even talked about this. Like, there was a derangement syndrome around Tebow, and I was on the wrong side of that from I'm a Christian, and you would have thought I had left the Christian faith by saying that Tim Tebow was not an NFL quarterback. Like, how dare you criticize him? And I almost got to the point where anytime I'd say something, I would have a preface like, Tim Tebow's a great guy, but, and like, you tried to give a little bit of a, like, ease the blow a little bit, but it's the same kind of mentality and the line of thinking that people just have kind of planted their flag in the ground, and they are not going to back away from it.
I want to play you, because I'm calling him Black Tim Tebow, and he
I didn't know that. I love that.
Yeah, he is Black Tim Tebow. That's clear as day after this weekend. Luke, I actually want to play both clips. I want to play him coming onto the field, and then the clip of him in the huddle. Let's play them both back to back. This whole thing is bizarre. This is Tim Tebow. But it's worse than Tim Tebow because I actually think Tim Tebow was well-intentioned. I don't think Shedeur is well-intentioned. I've never seen an NFL quarterback come onto a football field inviting the applause for himself. This is like he's like a pro wrestler entering the ring. It's like Hulk Hogan. And, I expect him to go, like this. And then it's so counterproductive and like his offensive linemen, they're like trying to quiet the crowd. We got to call a play. The quarterback is egging him on, and then the football players that are saying, no, this is going to hurt us. Tebow's the only analogy, and this is where I will get killed, is just like, I think Tim Tebow was well-intentioned. I don't think Shedeur is. I think he's just like his dad. He loves the attention far more than he loves the game.
So I don't know him personally. So I don't know what his intentions are. I will say this about Tebow. Tebow was 100% authentic, like in his faith. I think everything that he did, like I don't think he kneeled on the field for the brand. I think he kneeled on the field to give thanks, to ask for protection, to ask for blessing. Like I think Tim Tebow is, and I know Tim. Like I think he is the real deal. Like people, I would say, and even like Florida State fans be like, "Oh, he's a phony." I'm like, nope, he's the real deal. He's a Christian. Like he walks what he talks. But I do feel there is, and I think this is, you go by what you're raised by. Like I do think he has embraced the personality that his dad has, which is flamboyant, which is building a brand, which is, I'm going to do as much as I can to get my name out there, to gain as much publicity. I mean, Deion was the original. I mean, Muhammad Ali was the original brand builder and trash talker, but a lot of guys have taken that and run with it. But there's a difference, and this is the difference. Deion was a corner. Like, that's a different position. And we're seeing more quarterbacks kind of lean into the brand. Not many that have been hugely successful, but we've seen, guys like Johnny Manziel, who were big, like, look at me, and it's all about me. It's the hardest. We talked about this. It's the hardest position to play in all of sports. You get all the credit, you get all the blame, and you have to be a leader. And so I do think this is one aspect which is getting interesting because I think Shedeur was probably well-liked in that locker room the first time the guys met him, and I think Tebow was well-liked in the locker room. But the amount of attention that you get without doing anything, that causes animosity in a locker room. Like, jealousy is a very real thing among professional athletes, and I think it happened with Tebow. And they were winning. He won a playoff game, right? That's been his famous stat. But even inside that locker room, the guys were like, man, we see him every day in practice. Like, he's not that great, and he's getting his own sports center dedicated to him, and that's all they're talking about on all the talk shows. And now you've had that all season long, and he wasn't even playing. And so I do think it's gotten, and I know, like, Kevin Stefanski has gotten to the point where he's like, are you kidding me? We're still talking about this. And he's had to answer for it all season long because every single week, when's Shedeur going to play? When's he going to play? So I know Stefanski's probably irritated by it. Again, I don't think he's conspiracy theory. I don't think he's trying to throw anything. But I think in that locker room, there are potentially some guys that are like, they see him in practice every day. They see his work habits. They see all that he's about. And I guarantee you, the one thing, because I've seen this with first-round picks, I haven't seen this with fifth-round picks, but you'll see guys who come in and they feel like their bleep don't stink, right? And that's a recipe for disaster in the NFL because then you got a target on your back. And I think that's what's happened across the league. I think that's why you saw Kyle Hamilton. He knew the watch celebration. He was going to do that, and I guarantee you Shedeur is going to see a lot of that. So it puts a target on your back, and sometimes even in your own locker room, I think you have a chance of losing those guys. And your job as a quarterback is to bring the locker room together, not to put yourself above it.
You said two really interesting things that I want to follow up on, and I don't know which is the right order. But you said something. You made a passing reference to Muhammad Ali, and many, particularly black athletes, aspire to be the next Muhammad Ali, and it can't be transformed or transitioned into all these other different sports. Like Muhammad Ali was in a one-man sport. Him and another man would get in the ring and they'd settle their differences. It wasn't a team deal, and he had to legitimately back up everything that he said and all of his smack talk. In football, you're out there depending on 10 other guys at a time. 22 guys, 53 guys. And so a lot of times you don't have to back up all the talk. You need other people to help you back it up. And it just doesn't work. The whole, hey, look at me. Hey, I'm a trash talker. Hey, I'm this and that. Deion thinks it worked for him. And I guess to some degree it did. But at the quarterback position, you just can't try to be mimicking Muhammad Ali. You're too dependent on the offensive line, your tight ends, your wide receivers, your running backs, the play calling. Muhammad Ali had to depend on one person, Muhammad Ali.
Totally agree. I agree, but I do think some guys have tried to emulate that in team sports. And I thought that was going to be a struggle for Deion because he came in with the same bravado, the same smack talk, the same attitude as a head coach. And I was like, what's he going to do when he can't back it up? He didn't have the opportunity because as a player, he kind of did, right? I mean, he was one of the best we've ever seen to play the game. So he did. But as a coach, that is out of your hands. And I think even as a quarterback now, it's out of your hands. Like, sure, there's spot. I will say this. There is a younger crowd that thinks kind of that's it. Like, that's what they want to see. Somebody who says, screw the man. I'm not going to be your buttoned down, buttoned up, but like just doesn't say anything to the media. We want to see somebody who trash talks. Has there been one that's had a lot of success? Yeah, I don't think so.
Cam Newton would say that may be the biggest success story, but I don't remember Cam as much as talking, as much. It was more about celebration and the Superman deal, the way he ended up dressing later in his career. But it wasn't talk.
Constant.
It was, yeah.
Right. And he was kind of pre-social media. Like, that's a new aspect, too, where you've got, the Sanders family, they've got cameras everywhere. He films everything. So that's a new aspect. Like, you do wonder if guys historically would have, embraced that more and you would have seen more of that. But I just think there's a certain
far
aspect.
more talented than Shedeur. Far.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah, Cam was like Superman.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't need anybody. Well, I'll just run for a first down.
I think Cam Newton could have been LeBron James in the NFL if he just would have honed his craft a little bit more. I think he was probably worried a little bit too much, or he didn't take it serious. He just relied on his natural abilities to take over, and he could. But that really was the peak, was that one season was more the anomaly, the MVP season where they lost in the Super Bowl. I feel like his physical skill set could have taken over the NFL. Now, how long would it have lasted at that time when you could hit the quarterback? That's a question. But he had the skills to take over the game, and clearly that is not. I don't think that's where Shedeur is.
Yeah, you can have too much talent. If Cam was a little bit thinner, he might have been Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson does incredible things, but he's not Superman. He's not made of steel. He's not as big as the linebackers and all that. The other thing. Do
you remember? So I don't want to compare him to Lamar Jackson because Lamar is pretty humble, But remember when your guy Ryan Clark said that Lamar Jackson it was Lamar Jackson, right? That he said was the first true black quarterback.
Yeah, authentically black.
Which,
yes.
like whatever that means. I'm not in a position to speak on it. But I almost feel like that's what
to all the rap music. That's authentic.
But don't you feel like that's what the black community is viewing Shedeur as? Like, he's a guy that, and so that's where a lot of the rooting for Shedeur comes from.
Yeah, I talked about this yesterday, Danny. I'm kind of glad you brought it up. I was a little fearful to throw you into that. But what too many black people have is white derangement syndrome, where they pick their heroes based on, hey, does this person bother white people in their mind? And that's why we jump behind Colin Kaepernick, who, showed some real talent early, but then clearly didn't develop and got too congratulatory about himself. His ego run amok and the skills just eroded. But hey, he's kneeling and white people are bothered. And anything that bothers white people is good for us. That's Shedeur and Dion at this point. Hey, white people don't like how black they are, how many rappers, the gold chains, the swagger, and all these other things. And if it bothers white people, we're going to root for it. That's what this whole thing is rooted in. No one's looking at no one's sitting there going, hey, this is the most talented black quarterback I've ever seen, because he's not even close. He's not athletically passing the ball. The guy was like a 3.5 star recruit. He wasn't even a 4 or 5 star recruit. He's not that guy. He's not Warren Moon. He's not Cam Newton. He's not Lamar Jackson. So, it's one of these that we black people, unfortunately, and this is a large percentage of us, take too much satisfaction in trolling white people. And they feel like Shedeur is a good troll. It's no different than one of my friends, and I'll just say it, Uncle Jimmy that used to be on with me at Fox Sports, used to be on me here. I'll never forget, he started wearing, this is back when we were in Kansas City, he started wearing an O.J. Simpson jersey around. And I was just like, OJ, what are you doing? And again, it's just, hey, let's troll white people. Let's do something. He doesn't like O.J. Simpson. He doesn't care about O.J. Simpson. He just wanted to do something that annoyed white people. And too many black people are into that. It's counterproductive. Waking up every day, because again, Danny, I'm just speculating. I don't think you wake up every day and go, hey, man, how can I irritate black people? Hey, how can I make sure my wife doesn't get angry at me?
Right.
I got to get my kids to volleyball practice or whatever. You got just higher concerns to that. And unfortunately, too many of us don't. The other thing that
do you think some of it, though, is, because I hear what you're saying, but do you think some of it's just like, and maybe this is white establishment, but do you think some of it's just establishment? Because I do think Manziel was very similar, and he was a white guy, but I think he was so anti what we used to seeing at quarterback and the way they carry themselves, that was like a similar style. Like that's why they would pick sides, and some people really loved him with the money symbol, and some people I didn't like. I
liked him.
I don't like that personality, like all the things I think a quarterback are supposed to be. Maybe they're traditional, but like, is that the same?
Yeah, I think too much of black people's brand is based on rebellion. And they think we're here to rebel. And so anything that represents rebellion, anything that represents, instead of like looking at the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and saying, I agree with this, I agree with that. Oh, I understand why this is there, this is there. We look at it as like, hey, we didn't write it, or a black person didn't write it, so therefore I must rebel against it. It's bad. And, I talk about it, it's just racial idolatry. You're just blinded from the truth because you're examining everything from a lens of black versus white. You think you're in a war with white people, and you examine everything. If it hurts white people, frustrates them, irritates them, it must mean it's good for me. And it's just not true. Anyway, you got to get deeper than skin color. I mean, I talk about it all the time. And the people that, again, this is like, I don't want to go too far, I don't want to drag you anything, but it's like I look at someone like Nick Fuentes and people that are promoting tribalism. And I'm like, well, hold on, man. Can't you see what tribalism has done to black people? You want to repeat that? You want to now promote white pride? Have you not seen what black pride has done to black people? Trust me, it's going to have the exact same results on you. If you're claiming Christ, you need to be well beyond color, skin color. And you need to understand the damage that type, pride is a sin. I'm someone that talks constantly about there are no good versions of pride. The pride is always a negative, always. And people, you don't take pride in your child? Well, I don't have one, but I'm saying, no, you shouldn't take pride in your child. You should develop them, nurture them, be pleased with them, love them. But, pride becomes something that distracts from God and will it'll make you overly defensive of your child. You'll never see the mistakes that your child makes because you're so filled with pride and what they say about you. It's man, Danny, you're taking me to
Amen.
some deep places. No,
you're preaching to the choir though, because I do think my identity is in Christ, but I think that pride, your identity becomes your tribe, your political party, your family, your kids, your success, whatever it is.
Yeah. Food. I've got obviously a problem with food. Anyway, Kevin Stefanski, you mentioned, and I hear no one talking about this in a real way because it's it's foreboding, I guess. I feel sorry for Kevin Stefanski. I really do. Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam, who have put him in a horrible spot. Talking this much about a fifth-round quarterback and what reps a fifth-round quarterback should and shouldn't have got. This is crazy. He wakes up every day and goes, I got to talk about this fifth-round quarterback and whether or not I gave him reps when I have a third-round quarterback that we thought, hey, he may be a serviceable starter in this league. Who knows? And obviously needs the reps as a rookie. But I don't want to drag you in, but I keep hearing all these clips of women asking Stefanski questions about Shedeur's reps. And I just sit there and go, they know nothing about football. Many of these guys know nothing about football. Now you have players like Shannon Sharp and these guys lying about football. But Kevin Stefanski's probably going to get fired at the end of this season. And I think he'll go somewhere and be a successful coach. And I think this will be a lesson to the rest of the league. Why would you invite this kind of chaos and put your coach in this situation?
I think you see it all over his face when he talks to the media. Like if there was a body language expert, when he has to answer these questions, he is just kind of tired of them, and I think it's been that way for probably since the regular season started. Because it's one thing in training camp, how's the battle going, and again, he was fourth string at one time, and you're probably like, man, I've never been asked this many questions about a fourth stringer. But I do think if there were teams that passed on Shedeur, which clearly there were, and there were some teams that Shedeur said, I don't want to play for you. So those were some teams as well. I think they saw this coming. Like they did not want this to become a thing. And again, it goes back to Tim Tebow. He was on the Patriots and people were asking Bill Belichick. Now, Bill Belichick had a winning culture and he had Super Bowl rings behind his name. So he could be like, nah, don't even start. We're not talking about him. Stefanski's not really in that position. And this is a coach who's been two-time coach of the year. And he probably is going to get fired. And it has created a massive distraction, which every coach hates. And it's not necessarily it's Shedeur. It's just everything that Shedeur comes with. There's a lot of baggage that comes with it, including a whole army of social media, presence that are going to, sensationalize every single aspect of it, including saying you're sabotaging him. It's just insanity to think that a coach who's fighting for his coaching life is going to do anything that would take away from his team trying to win football games.
I think a lot of people think Shedeur isn't really contributing to the problem, but I do think he contributes to the problem. Do we have the clip from yesterday, Luke, of Shedeur at the podium post-game press conference? Yeah, we can pull that up. I didn't like the way Shedeur handled the post-game press conference. You get into the game with a 16-10 lead. You leave the game 23-16 losers. You don't score a point. I can't believe how elated he was. He struggled to keep the smile off his face. I didn't like the way. And let's play the clip and then we'll get Danny to react.
Yeah, I'm extremely thankful. Well, first let me say this. When Dylan out there playing and all that, I appreciate the fans, I appreciate everybody, but it don't really. I'm a good person overall, so I don't really like him not feeling comfortable, confident, when he get out there. So, it puts everything in a tough spot, and it's not helping the team, So that could be taken as, okay, I'm being a distraction, even though I ain't doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing, but I'm thankful for the supporters, thankful for the fans, thankful for everybody out there, that believes. And, when I got out there, I definitely felt them. And, I'm truly thankful for it. And, yeah, I'm just thankful that I'm out here. I'm thankful for the opportunity, thankful for seeing all them 12 jerseys out there. And it was a great feeling.
That's horrendous, in my opinion.
The back end. I thought the front end was okay, but the back end, when he is smiling and he's talking about this opportunity and you had a chance to win that game and you didn't do it. I mean, I feel like I should give a PR class on like how quarterbacks should handle the media. Again, that maybe it's a totally different way than everybody else would. But my thing would be, I hope Dylan's okay. Like, hey, I hope Dylan's okay. He just got knocked out of the game. I hope he's okay. That would be one of the first things I would say. The other thing I would have told a young Shedeur Sanders a few weeks ago was, why are you talking to the media at all? And when he was the third stringer, he was doing that thing where he was miming and he was talking. Like, what are you doing? You're on a losing football team and you're kind of making fun and joking around about, something that Rex Ryan said on TV. Like, as a young player, and this goes if you're a first round or a second round, you just don't talk much to the media. You haven't done anything yet. That would be my approach. Don't even talk to the media. You don't have to. Now, in that situation, he has to. You're the guy that got in the game. They're going to want to talk to you. But you don't have to be available for media. You can go in the training room. You can leave. I used to do that all the time. I didn't want to deal with them. And every once in a while, I'd have some guy come up and ask me something random, not even about the game. And I just went in the training room, kind of studied my playbook, just went about my business. But I actually think I feel like it's kind of gotten away from him a little bit early on. Like when he was drafted by the Browns, I thought Shedeur handled it really well. From that aspect, saying he didn't complain. He didn't say, I should have been a first rounder. He said, I'm happy to be on the Browns. And I gave him credit for that, for kind of swallowing his pride and saying, I just want the opportunity. Now it's getting a little bit like you get a glimpse of like the 12 jerseys and what it is all about. And, but he's thanking his base. He's thanking his people for giving him the support.
He doesn't understand football. The people in the stands, whether they're wearing 12 jerseys, whether they're clapping for him or not, will have no impact on how he performs. I'm thankful for you guys loving me. Okay, why is that important? And again, this is someone that claims a Christian faith. You don't need the world to love you. And matter of fact, the world loving you is a sign you're doing something wrong. And so the claps nor the jerseys are going to help the Browns win a football game. And you just lost one, a game that you entered into with a 6-point lead. And I know football has changed, and I know how much money these guys make and all that. But I'm talking about even at the Mid-American Conference level, mid-major football, mid-major Division I football, when you lost, it felt like someone died in your family. And maybe that's unhealthy. But that is, everybody that, particularly if you played, everybody's like, oh my, man, this is horrible. Practice next week is going to be miserable. The coaches are going to be, everybody just got real quiet and just hung their head. And it's like, oh man. And it used to be that way in the NFL. And I'm looking, this guy couldn't contain his joy, even though he got in because his teammate got a concussion. He's happy about it, and he couldn't hide it, in my view.
Yeah. When I was my second year in the league, Dave Brown was the starting quarterback. We had just gotten Jim Fossil, and Dave Brown was a struggling starter, right? He was kind of hanging on for his job. I was the hot young pick. I was only a 4th rounder, but everybody loves a backup, right? And we were playing, and Dave Brown got hurt against the Cowboys, and the fans cheered. I came in the game. We won the game. And I remember telling the media, I didn't like our Giants fans cheering that. Like, I thought that was unacceptable. And I said that. And I think that goes a long way in the locker room. I know it went a long way with my relationship with Dave Brown. That's one thing I've always kind of felt like I've had good relationships with other quarterbacks. Like, it can be a really weird dynamic when you're competing for there's only one spot. But I think that was the one thing that I would have said if I would have said to Shedeur is, what, you gotta say you hope Dylan Gabriel's okay. Like, that was the first thing that jumped out to me, was he didn't say, first of all, I want to make sure Dylan's okay. Like, it's an easy win, for the locker room, for his relationship with Dylan Gabriel, for all of it, so.
The other thing that everybody's making excuses, they got 4 of 16, 47 yards, an interception, a fumble, and 2 sacks. He didn't get first team reps. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but he also didn't look anything like a professional quarterback. He maybe the one ball that got broken up in the end zone late that was a pretty good throw, but other than that, he looked completely overwhelmed and unprepared, and they're blaming all of that on Kevin Stefanski, but that's just not true, Danny.
No, I think he got exposed somewhat. Some of the issues that I thought were going to be an issue for him, that were an issue at Colorado, that he got away with. He hangs on the ball too long. Like, he's trying to, and I think his average time in the pocket was 4 seconds. Like, it was something crazy, that he was just holding on to the ball. He's trying to make a big play. You got to throw it away. Like, sometimes you just have to throw it away. I don't think he had great protection. Like, I don't think he got great help, but he didn't do much to help the offensive line in front of him. I think the thing that Shedeur is going to have to do, and I remember Steve DeBerg was my quarterback my rookie year, and it was when Dave Brown was hurt, and like I was going in, and he always taught me as a backup, and if you're getting to go in the game, you better be like so dialed in on your blitz pickups, because that's what a defensive coordinator is going to do. As soon as a backup comes in, they're going to test you. They're going to blitz you because they know they haven't got reps. They know they're young. So they're going to see, all right, does he know his protection? Does he know where to go with the football when there's a free blitzer? Like, do they know what's going on? And so I think that's what Shedeur got a little bit overwhelmed with. I don't think he knew exactly where to go or what protection to check into. I mean, it's a lot too. I wasn't expecting much out of Shedeur. So I think he kind of played like a 5th round pick that's a rookie. I thought that's what he played like. But this week against the Raiders, back to your original question, he better be ready for that blitz package. And I, like, a couple times when I came in off the bench and started, I was at the facility all night, and that was the one thing I wanted to make sure I was so dialed in on the game plan, and no matter what blitz they could throw at me, I at least was prepared for it. Now, I might not execute. You still could get a sack. You still could take something, but I wanted to be ready for every single possible thing they'll throw at him, because I guarantee you that's what the Raiders are going to do. They're going to blitz him. They're going to test him. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
There's one play in particular that's been discussed on social media where he got blitzed, and it looks like he points to the safety and sends the protection that direction. And people are, well, does the center call the pass protection or does the quarterback? It's the quarterback. Back in my day,
depends. I think it depends. So a lot of times what will happen is the center, and this depends on where you are in your career, right? And it depends on where you are in a system. Sometimes if you're a young quarterback, they might tell the center, who's a veteran, hey, you set the protection. Like, you call out the Mike linebacker, because a lot of times the protections are based on who the Mike linebacker is. And sometimes you might not identify the actual Mike linebacker because you want to turn to somebody else who's more of a threat. And so sometimes that'll happen. And then as a quarterback, if you're a veteran, like, if you could even hear, sometimes you're watching the game, if you have the audio real dialed up, and if it's Tom Brady or, somebody, you could hear them say, hey, 55 is the mic, 55 is the mic. And you can even hear him saying, no. Nope, we're going to 51 is the mic. 51's the mic now. You can hear them communicating that. But there are some circumstances where I've seen it where you would have the center call that out just to help a young quarterback. But the disadvantage of the center is he has to get over the ball. Like, it's hard for him to look around. He doesn't have the advantage of up here. So I would think maybe in that situation, and you can overrule him. You could try to say, hey, no, I'm going to redirect, but you better be right. And you can get fooled. Like, that's the biggest jump for me, and I think for every young quarterback, is not making every throw. It's not the speed of the talent. It's the mental aspect. It's being able to handle the playbook, recognize defenses, know the protections, and then, oh, by the way, you have to execute once you see those. But you know, you can get fooled easily because they're going to deceive you. They don't do that a lot in college. They'll do it a little bit, but there are so many different looks they're going to dangle in front of you. And if you're young and you haven't seen much or you haven't seen much film, then you can get fooled all the time, and that can put you in a really bad spot.
And so, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong here. You don't think in this modern NFL where they huddle for a shorter period of time, they're at the line of scrimmage in shotgun more, that the quarterback's not responsible for the protection more so than the center in this modern NFL?
I do, but I think it's probably still trying to think of other young quarterbacks who have played this year, like Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. Now he got every rep in training camp, so I don't know, but I think it's probably 80% of quarterbacks probably identify, who the mic is, direct the traffic. But I do think there are some situations where you might have a center take care of them. There's other things you can do around it too. You can call protections that are max protections. That, like, you can try to protect them that way, but then you get limited and you can't release many guys out on routes. So you're kind of stuck and you kind of have to gamble a little bit and hope they bring pressure, which I actually think you might see that against the Raiders too. And that'll be a part of Stefanski's game plan, is to really pick and choose, hey, if they're starting to blitz so much, we're going to start max protecting. And then if you get fooled on that, then you don't really have a lot of options. You got to get to your check down. And it's just, you want to be able to, and I think that's what people talk about when they say, is Kevin Stefanski going to slim down the playbook a little bit? But I honestly wonder how much it's been slimmed down already for Dylan Gabriel. Like, I don't think he was that much more advanced in what his knowledge of the system was.
I think he's much more advanced because Shedeur has played in his daddy's system his entire career. He's never been coached by anybody else. And so we'll end on this note. We'll end where we started. What do you expect to happen with the Raiders? Mason Crosby, I think, will be a problem, but the Raiders aren't a great team. The problem I see for Shedeur, and this is from a mental aspect, pressure makes diamonds, and pressure will make you perform. All the pressure's off Shedeur, in my view, because these guys will excuse anything. And so if he plays poorly, RG3 and Shannon Sharp and everybody, they're going to run to say, blame Kevin Stefanski, blame the offensive line. It's everybody but Shedeur. The lack of pressure is going to hurt his development. And I just think that he's been coddled and doesn't know football nearly as well as most quarterbacks, particularly someone that's been playing quarterback since they were 5 or 6 years old. I just don't think he knows the game. But what do you think happens here this Sunday?
I think he's going to get a lot of pressure. I think he probably takes a lot of sacks, because I think he probably looks at his completion percentage from this weekend and says, I can't have that again. It's better to take a sack than to, throw an incomplete pass. I think he'll make some good throws. I think there'll probably be some that are like, oh, see, that's the guy. He should have been a first-round talent. But I also think he'll make mistakes. Like, I think it'll be a bumpy performance from Shedeur. And probably the same reaction is going to happen where people are going to say, see, I told you he can't play. And he's going to make just enough plays where people are going to say, see, that's why he should have been starting from day one. But I don't think I don't expect him to go out there and just light it up. I think, but who knows? I mean, a lot of people are going to be tuning into this one. That'll be sure. And you know what else? This comes with the territory. And you put that bullseye on your back, it plays a little bit harder. Your opponents, like the Raiders, are going to be excited to get a chance to get a sack on Shedeur. I don't know if that's the case if it was Dylan Gabriel or just any opponent from the season. Like, the NFL is a grind. It's a 17-game slate. Though there is definitely a speed where some guys don't go all out every time. Shedeur is going to get the best shot from the Raiders. Like, they're going to be fired up. And so that makes me a little bit more concerned for him too.
Just last thing, as an athlete and an elite one, that recruited to Florida State in the Heisman race, all American, and now you're developing your kids, your daughters. How important is it for an elite athlete to feel pressure? Because again, they're trying to remove pressure from Shedeur. It's not your fault. I actually think in order to get greatness, they need to feel that pressure.
Too many athletes now, and I don't think this is exclusive to Shedeur, too many athletes now take the easiest path possible to success. And you see this happen with 12-year-olds in travel soccer or 15-year-olds that are freshmen in high school. Why do you think kids hop from school to school or from club to club? It's because the minute they face pressure or adversity, they run from it and they go to the easier path. Well, this team, they said they'll give you a starting spot. This club, they'll give you more playing time. This coach, this team is an automatic winner. Like your team, you might be a really good player on your team, but you're losing. Oh, you got to go to a winning team so you can win, as opposed to sticking around lifting everybody else up. It's a problem across youth sports that I think is just, I don't even know if anybody realizes what it is doing to young athletes mentally. Like we hear so much about mental health, and you can blame a lot of different things, which I do agree with. Social media creates a lot of anxiety. But the other thing is people are not prepared to deal with adversity when it comes because they've always run from it. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Danny, thank you so much. Great job as always. We'll see you next week. That's Danny Cannell. That was great. And I wanted to get into some other topics with Danny, but the Shedeur stuff was too good. All right, we'll play some tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone.